Some people struggle posting on LinkedIn, I find, because they have trouble with the term influencer, right? They don't want, it's kind of like this ick factor. You're like, I'm not an Instagram model. I don't really want to be an influencer. I don't want to shine a light on my life and have to tell personal stories all over the public internet. And, I kind of sympathize with that a lot. Maybe it would help, though, if we could distinguish between two different types of posting content online. There are people that want to be an influencer versus people who want to be what I would call a person of influence. Now, this is not a new idea. There's a guy called Daniel Priestley who talks a lot about this. There's a distinction between an influencer and a person of influence. And I think a lot of people would be more comfortable with being a person of influence. So what's the major difference? What's the distinction? So someone who is an influencer tends to point the camera at themselves and talk about, their life and their journey, and maybe they share personal anecdotes and personal stories. And just to be clear, I don't think that there's a correct way to do this, right? I can actually show you examples that have been very successful in both departments. So as an example, you've probably come across him before. There's a really successful guy. I really like his post. His name's Craig Barnes. Hopefully he doesn't mind me sharing this. So Craig, if you follow him on LinkedIn, he does a really, really good job of posting and getting a lot of reach on his posts. He's what I would call an influencer. And in fact, he actually had a post where he said, let me just read it here. Why don't I post educational content about lubricants? And he says it doesn't excite him, right? So what you're going to see from him in his posts, and he's very consistent, is his reputation, his commitment, his values and story, his razor-sharp wit, and his passion for business. And that's fantastic, right? You can take that approach and you can build a good following and you get a lot of engagement. And I'm sure that's probably working for him in business. It seems to be working out really well for him. And the advantage of doing that is that your customers then know you as a person. And remember, in sales, people like to buy from other people that they know, like, and trust. Now, that's one way of doing it, right? The key there is that you are posting mostly about yourself and not about necessarily your customer, right? And just to be clear, I don't think that there is a wrong or a right way to do this. Craig has been very successful and I'm very entertained by his content, right? But if that's not for you, right, the other approach would be to try and be a person of influence. And a person of influence shines a light not on themselves, but on something else, right? Maybe shines a light on an idea or a better way of doing things or a philosophy or best practice, or they might shine a light on new technologies. So if you are uncomfortable sharing personal anecdotes, or you think that I don't have a sense of humor, or maybe you don't feel like you have anything in your experience which is valuable to share, I'd say you're wrong on that, but that's for another video. Then what you can do is you can shine a light on something which is beneficial for your customer. So, as an example, we could say, I want to shine a light on oil cleanliness and its relation to machine reliability. Now, that's something that you can talk about where you don't have to talk about yourself. You could find something really cool and novel that you've seen at a customer site. Maybe it's a new kind of sensor, or a new way of installing desiccant breathers. Maybe it's a new sight glass. Maybe it's simply a new way of storing and handling lubricants. Maybe you've seen an interesting way that your customer manages their lube routing. Maybe you've seen something interesting in the way that their organization is structured, which enables them to be more effective with their lubrication program. Shining a light on your customer successes and then saying, hey, this is something that we could implement across all of our customers, that would be an example of being a person of influence rather than an influencer. So you're shining a light on the way that your customer is doing something really, really well. And I find just that sort of small change in psychology, that I don't have to share personal anecdotes and personal stories. I'm just sharing information that I want to put out there. That sometimes is just the slight change that people need to get them to start posting.